In the last video, I alluded to the fact that we can actually pass values to functions. Functions have parameters, and here is a very simple example of just that. So we've got our brackets of our function here, and inside the brackets we have an x. Now this x is going to be a variable that we can only use inside this function right here. As soon as this function is done, this x will disappear. And you can see here I'm calling my function, I'm calling square, and I'm what we call passing it. I'm passing it the value of 5. So the 5 right here in the brackets is going to come up and x will take on the value of 5. So if I run this, you can see that it says 5 to the power of 2 equals 25. Okay, so this x right here is what is called a parameter. We're passing the function something that it can use inside of that function's code. Here's a second example of basically the same thing, where we have a function called circle area, and we're actually going to be passing not just a number to the function, but we're going to be passing it a variable this time. Okay, so the variable is called radius, and I'm getting the radius from the user. So if I run this program, you can see it says, please enter the radius of your circle. So if I enter a 5, it outputs the area of a circle with a radius of 5 is 78.5. Okay, and so you can see that radius is what is getting passed to our function. Now inside of our function, we have this parameter called r. And r is the variable that we're going to use inside our function. And r takes on the value of whatever it is passed to it. So since I entered a 5 here for radius, then that means right here radius takes on the value of 5, and 5 is being passed into here. So r becomes 5, and anytime r is going to be used in here, it thinks that r is 5. So pi is 3.14159, area is pi r squared, and then it just prints out the area of a circle with a radius of r. That's what I passed to my function, is area, what I calculated using that r. This next example shows that we're not actually limited to just being able to pass one parameter. In fact, we can pass multiple parameters. So here you can see that I'm asking the user for a length and for a width, and what my function is going to do, which is called rectangle area, my function is going to output what the area of a rectangle is based on its length and its width. So it says, please enter the length of your rectangle. If I enter 5 and 10 for my width, we know that 5 times 10 is 50. And it says the area of a rectangle with dimensions 5 by 10 is 50. Now, it doesn't matter so much in this example, but I want to point out that since length is the first variable being passed to my function, x takes on the value of length. Okay, so the first thing that I pass will take on the value for the first parameter. The width then would become y. So area is x times y. Again, in this case, it doesn't matter. We could have went y times x. The order doesn't matter. But the first thing that gets passed is the value of the first parameter in the function. In that way, the order does matter. In this example, I want to show you what one of your fellow classmates actually used in one of their programs. And what we have here is that we've actually had to import time because we're going to be delaying just a little bit. And we're going to call this type print. Our function is called type print, and it takes a string gets passed to it, and we're going to go letter by letter. For the letter that's in my string, I want to print the letter and then not go to the next line, and then just pause for 0.1 seconds. So the string that I'm just going to pass it is, how are you today? So if I run this program, you can see it says, how are you today? And it has that nice little typewriter look to it, where each letter is delayed by 0.1 seconds rather than the whole string popping out all at once. And if you want to slow it down a little bit more, we could just sleep for a little bit longer. And so you can see every half of a second a new letter is being printed to the screen, and it looks like someone is typing. And lastly, we're going to open our program that we used in the last lesson to draw a ship to our Pygame window. And what we're going to do now is we're going to pass some information so that the program knows where to draw the ship. Okay, so some information is we probably want the surface, so on which surface we're going to draw the ship, and then we need an x and a y location. So down here under draw ship, what we need to do now is we need to pass draw ship, our function, 3 values. First of all, the surface that it's drawn on. Okay, so we're going to let it know that we want to draw on window. So right here, we can say surface for all of these. So I will just copy and paste this in. Okay, so window will be passed up, and that's the surface that we're going to draw on here. And where do we want to draw our ship? Well, first off, let's draw it at 0, 0. Okay, so if I just left this as it was, X and Y aren't being used for anything here. So if I run this, what's going to happen is my ship will be drawn, but then if I pass it different values instead of 0, 0, like 100, 100, the ship's going to be drawn in the exact same location. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the ship based on where X and Y are located. Okay, so we can just put X plus 100, Y plus 100 here. So we need to add X coordinates to all of our X coordinates here. Or sorry, I should say we need to add X to all of our X coordinates here. And so we'll put an X plus here. So every X location now has X plus to it, and now we need that for every Y location. So here are our Y locations. We'll maybe do these ones first. Okay, now when I go to run it, if I put 0, 0, our ship will be in the exact same spot that it was originally because it's saying 0 plus 100 and 0 plus 100. So if I run it, you can see our ship is in the same spot. But if I add the 100s back in, and I run it again, you can see our ship has moved over 100 and down 100. And I can put in a whole bunch of other values, like if I said 300 over, 100 down from where it originally was drawn, you can see this is 300 over and 100 down from there. Now remember, one thing I said about functions is that you can call them multiple times. Well, remember, this is a whole bunch of code to draw the ship, right? Well, I can just call my draw ship 4 times, and we can have 4 ships. Okay, so now with these 4 short lines of code, I've got 4 rocket ships being drawn. Okay, you can see these 4 rocket ships are on the screen now. And that's simply by adding this little bit of code right here, rather than all of these draw rectangles and polygons all over again with whole new X and Y values. So this is just one example of how we can keep using this function over and over again to draw our ship, but send it different coordinates if we want to draw different ships.